Hey guys, welcome back to the Alchemy Show. Today we have a special episode as we have a very special guest joining me. If you guys do not know this great man, he's one of the world's most respected and trusted experts on the topics of human behavior and potential. He's the author of over 40 self-development books, which have been translated into over 36 languages. He was one of the key personalities on the movie The Secret, and his signature program, The Breakthrough Experience, has helped over 100,000 students across the world in transforming their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Dr. John Demartini. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So before we start, you've got a movie coming out in the next month, I believe.
Yeah, June 10th, we have a movie called Breakthrough Movie, which is about the seminar that I've done all these years and also about the methodologies that I've introduced in that seminar. And yeah, I'm very inspired by it. We're launching the premiere in London on June 10th, and it's already sold out. We're having to get a bigger venue, so I'm impressed that we weren't expecting that. We just thought we'd have a nice little reviewing and some close people, but the words got out a bit. So, but yeah, a gentleman out of Malaga, Spain, and out of Malibu, California, asked if he could put this kind of documentary movie together, and I said, "Sounds cool to me. So let's do it."
Phenomenal.
So he put it together, and I just get to do and be myself, and that's all I get to do.
Yeah. And I saw it's up for about 14 international film festivals and already won 7 awards.
I don't know the date. I know it was 5 about a week ago, but I think there's some new ones come in, so there may be more. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
But
I
I think
checked yesterday. Yeah, so wow, that's so impressive. Something you said on the trailer was the real power of the method is helping people not be a victim of their past and becoming a master of their destiny. And I really want to dive into, your definitions of purpose and mission and really when you started to become aware of your own. So maybe I've heard your story, of course, but for those that haven't, take us back to when you started to, I guess, have a value for finding your own purpose.
Well, I was a long-haired hippie surfer kid when I was a teenager, living in the North Shore of Oahu, riding big waves. That was my thing, surfing.
Yeah.
And I got really, I guess you could say, a brush with nearly dying. I got really sick and I almost died. And in the recovery of that, I was led to this yoga class and health food, or this health food store, and then this yoga class. And a guest speaker named Paul C. Bragg was speaking there. And he spoke. And then one night, in one little hour, this one guy shared information that just kind of shattered my paradigm and made me believe that maybe I could overcome my learning problems. I had a learning challenge. I had a speech impediment, dyslexia, and I've never ever had not read a book even by then. I didn't read till I was 18. I had learning problems. But I was good in sports. I could stand on a surfboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but that night, he took us through a guided imagery meditation, an alpha meditation, as he called it. And I got a vision of what I wanted to do that I was not expecting. And the trajectory of my life shifted that night from surfing, which I assumed was going to be my destiny, just riding big waves and making surfboards and living on the North
Yeah.
Shore, to all of a sudden believing that I could overcome my learning problems and wanting to learn and become a teacher and travel the world. So I saw a vision that night of what I wanted to do, and that was almost 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I've been working on it ever since. And if you stay with something long enough, you get somewhere. You just got to stay with it. I
Yeah.
guess I've never given up on the dream, and I've been blessed to travel a lot of countries, probably 80% of all and 90% of the countries in the world speaking. So that's what I do. I'm traveling right now. I'm in
Yeah.
Phuket right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's so incredible. And I know after that you got into medicine. You were studying medicine and then you were building your practice. Um what for people that I guess don't know that part of your journey, I know that learning and studying, you kind of had to catch up and teach yourself how to read and everything. Were you being driven by, I guess, a vision of you being a doctor, or was it bigger than that?
I wanted to be a teacher, healer, and philosopher.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it wasn't medicine, it was chiropractic that was the feeling. I went in college. When I first started going back to school, I failed. And I had, and then I decided I'm not going to give up on this thing. Something my mom said that really made me determined. And I decided I was going to start memorizing words in the dictionary to grow my vocabulary so I could understand things. And I studied 30 words a day, wrote them out 20 times, wrote out the sentence that you're applying them, wrote out how to spell them. I mean, the pronunciation. And I added 30 words a day over the next 2 years. There's 20,000 words. I grew my vocabulary in 2 years. And so in the process of doing that, I started excelling in school from failing to excelling in a very short period of time. It just goes to show when you really, really have something that you're committed to doing, you can do it.
yeah,
And that led me to learn to read. And I've been reading, I've never stopped reading. I mean, I just read every day.
yeah.
And I went pre-med into college because that's what you had, a pre-med path.
Mm,
But I didn't like the idea that I didn't believe we had an excess of organs and a deficiency of drugs. I didn't like the idea of giving somebody a pharmaceutical
mm,
if they could do it naturally.
mm.
So chiropractic was the philosophical angle that I chose over medicine. And and so that I was very grateful I did that because the philosophical ideas that are there and the people that I learned from and that knowledge that I gained during that pathway was extraordinary. And then I got into practice and I was blessed after reading this book by Alec McKenzie's The Time Trap, I just catalyzed my growth in my practice and go, what did he do? I grew
Yeah.
from one person in a little 970 square foot office to a 5,000 square foot office with 5 doctors and 12 staff in 18 months. And people,
Holy moly.
whatever you did. And so I started giving insights on how to do that. And it
Mm,
just kept growing and I started speaking. But I knew when I opened up my practice that I was going to do that for 5 years max. That was it.
okay.
I told my I told my assistant, I said, we're gonna open a practice, we're gonna grow it, we're gonna scale it, we're gonna then go on and we're gonna hit health professionals and we're gonna hit all the other other professionals,
Yeah.
and we're going around the world with speaking. And she said, okay. She didn't have any judgment on that. And
Wow.
and people said, well, well, you went for 10 years to college to be a doctor. Why aren't you going to do that? And I said, that was a stepping stone. I never stopped learning. From the time I learned how to read, I never stopped learning. I
Mm,
still read every single day. And you know, this morning, I had an amazing meeting with a guy that owns an AI corporation. It's a massive corporation,
yeah.
$15 billion corporation.
Wow.
And he wants me to be one of his mentors on polymathic thinking for AIs.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
the the desire to learn has paid off in God knows how many ways now. And so, yeah, I think that teaching, healing, and philosophy was what I was inspired by. And I still study philosophy. I still study healing. I mean, I've written a book on the brain recently, and I'm working on one on
Okay.
moralities right now. And I've
Wow.
done one on physiology and the origins of life and self physiology. I mean, I study that every day. I'm
Every day.
constantly getting research. I have health professionals around the world sending me stuff that's cutting edge. You
Yeah, I
know,
remember you
just
talking about that.
but I just love learning. I love organizing knowledge. I love sharing anything that might allow another individual to maximize their potential, to master the 7 areas of their life, and to evolve their consciousness. I'm in.
You're in.
And that's it. For 52 years I've been doing that.
It's so amazing that you knew that you were only going to be in chiropractic for 5 years, and so I'm assuming like everything that occurred, like you had planned for it. It wasn't just this random step that
No,
was.
I have a master plan. I have a
Yeah.
master plan and this is going to sound outrageous, but it's 9,000 page plan.
Well, you have a seminar on it though, Master Planning Your Life, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I started master planning my life. Paul Bragg told me the night I met him that night, he said, what you think about what you see in your mind's eye, or what you visualize, what you affirm, and what you internally dialogue about, what you externally dialogue to others about how you want your life, what you feel inspired by, and what you take action on in priority becomes destiny.
Becomes
And so I
destiny.
started taking command. I took his advice. I started commanding out. He said, if you don't decide what you want, other people decide. And if you don't
Mm,
fill your day with high priority actions, low priority distractions fill it up. So I started to decide, what do I want out of my life? How do I want my life? And it wasn't what everybody else wanted. Not everybody wanted to do. I never wanted to live in a little town, little small house, and little place. I always wanted Earth was home.
yeah.
I was reading Albert Einstein when I was 18 because I wanted to know what is a genius. And I asked, what is this? And he said that I'm not a man of my family, community, city, state, or nation. I'm a citizen of the world. I
Well,
live on a ship called the world that goes around the world today
yeah.
because I want to be a citizen of the world, not local. I wanted a
Okay.
non-local presence. And I learned from Ed Tellison when I was about 20. He said, never live where you can't see the farthest horizon. Always
Wow.
live at the top of a mountain, the top of a building, or at sea where there's no blocking of your view. Because anything
Yes.
that blocks your view that's man-made will interfere with your vision in life. So I've always wanted to be where I could have the horizons of the universe so I could see at night the stars and see during the day the blue horizons.
That's very inspiring. I remember you talking about that's why you at your seminars, that's why you gotten onto the ship and everything. Um,
Yeah.
through master planning and everything, I'm curious to know when did the insights for things like the value survey, the Demartini method start to come in, or was that when you started chiropractic? Did you already have those ideas?
Uh, when I was 23 years old, I asked, what is it? Why is there some people walking or talk and some people limp in life? What is it that makes people intrinsically driven versus extrinsically driven? And I started studying values and axiology at 23. That's 46 years, almost 47 years ago. So I read every book that was available on the topic. And there's not a lot. It's a
Mm,
very
yeah.
finite number of books in that. There's derivative fields, but that field of axiology, there's 15 basic books that everybody can study.
Whoa.
I devoured those and I wasn't satisfied with it because it seemed like people were subordinating to convention, tradition, and mores and basically moral hypocrisies
Mm,
about how life's supposed to be, mainly from the oppressor over the oppressed and social structure. And as a result of that, I said, I'm going to find something that's more objective than this. This is the way we're supposed to be. Nietzsche said there's is and there ought to be. And he
mm,
said the is what's actual, the ought to be is what we think and we're trying to realize, and that causes internal friction. So I want to know, how do we determine what a real value structure is of an individual instead of just what they think it should be, ought to be, supposed to be.
yes.
And
Yes.
I tried to differentiate imperatives versus indicatives in the mind and narrow down. So I developed a system to help people identify what's truly important to them,
Yeah.
not what they think it should be.
Yes.
And that's what the lens stat. And the Demartini method started uh, when I was 18 going on 19. I was still 18. My mom asked me, what do I want for my birthday and for Christmas? Because I was born on Thanksgiving Day. And I said, Mom, I want the greatest teachings on the face of the earth by the greatest minds who ever lived. And she said, are you sure you don't want a t-shirt? No, I want the greatest teachings by the greatest minds who ever lived. She goes, okay, let me see what I can do. She called her brother, who was a professor at MIT, and he, as a gift, who was a chemist and physicist, brilliant guy, he sent two giant 6 by 6 by 6 foot wooden crates on a flatbed truck to our house. And they unloaded it on the ground. We lived in the country, and I got a crowbar out and opened up these big crates and filled my room with books, thousands
Yeah.
of books.
Yeah.
And I just went to work. And one of the books in there was by Leibniz, the Discourse on Metaphysics by Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. And in there, in the very first chapter, very beginning of the book, it says that no human being could improve upon the perfection of what is.
Wow.
That he called it a divine perfection.
Yeah.
And I said, and I got tears in my eyes. And whenever you get
Yeah.
tears in your eyes, you know to follow that.
You follow
And
that.
I wrote that down. I said, I want to find out what this hidden order, this perfection is. Not a pseudo perfection, but a perfection of the universe. So I devoured philosophy and quantum theories. And also another book that was there was the Principles of Quantum Mechanics, a 1947 version of Paul Dirac, who was the one that gave
Yes.
rise to particle and nanoparticle studies. And in there, he basically said, for every particle, there's an antiparticle. They have opposite spins, opposite valencies and charges, but if you put them together, they make light. And in my naivety at the time, I
Yeah.
thought, if I could take positive and negative emotions and put them together, could I make enlightenment? That was what
Genius.
went through my mind at 18.
Genius.
And so when I started to go, I want to find out the keys to the hidden order. I studied Boltzmann's work on thermodynamics. I studied Claude Shannon's work on entropy. And I started putting the puzzle together, and I started to say there's a hidden order in the chaos, and
Mm,
the algorithms are they're beyond our computation. We have a computational boundary, as Stephen Wolfram, the
yeah.
mathematician, says, and we don't comprehend it because we don't know how to ask the right questions. So I went on a pursuit to try to find questions that allowed people to be conscious of what they're unconscious of and create an algorithm to try to find the hidden order so they could see the perfection of their life. So
Yeah.
that started at 1819, and
Wow.
I've been building the Demartini method now all these years since. So that's 51 years I've been working on the method.
And for everyone watching, if you have done the Demartini method, it is literally that experience of one light, and you see both sides, and it's just like, oh my God, that was here in front of me the whole time, and I've been under this distorted perception that it's all been a loss, or it's all been negative, or I've been living a high life and infatuated. And the
Can I
minute
give
you
you a couple
said,
examples?
yeah,
Yeah. So I had this gentleman who came to the breakthrough experience, which is one of my signature programs, which I've taught 1,209 times. And he goes in there and he says, I feel like a schmuck. I really feel guilty. I really feel bad. And I've been feeling bad now for the last 4 years. And I can't seem to shake it. And I said, so what exactly is it? Because if you're doing that, you're obviously judging yourself for some action you did.
mm,
I know exactly what it is. I said, what is it? She says, my mom died and I wasn't there before her deathbed. I wasn't
oh
there.
wow,
And I felt really guilty about that. I let my mom down. And he really was emotional about it. And I said, okay, whenever you feel guilt, you're assuming that you did an action that is causing more pain and pleasure to someone.
mm,
That's all it is. And you're not seeing the upsides. So I asked him a simple question. So how did that help your mom that you weren't there? He says it didn't. I said, no, you answered what you thought. I want to know, I want to hold you accountable to answer what's the benefit to your mom. I can't see any, he said. You answered that within 2 seconds, which means you didn't really look. So look
mm,
again.
mm.
I don't know. You answered that within 2 seconds. That means you didn't really look. Stop that and answer the question. How did it benefit your mom that you weren't there? And he goes, he starts scanning, and then all of a sudden he stares and he starts getting tears in eyes and he goes, wow. My mom and my sister had not talked for 7 years. My mom died in my sister's arms. They cleared the air, and my mom got to say what she needed to say, and the sister got to say how much she loved each other, and they brought it to love. If I had been there, the incomplete that my mom wanted and my sister wanted would not have been complete. I would have interfered with it. And the truth is, I know I love my mom, and I know she loves me. There's no question about that.
Yeah,
But if I'd have been there, I would have interfered with what was essential for my mom,
mm,
because she did not want to die with that incompletion with her daughter. And they died in her arms, getting to say, I love you. When he did that, all of a sudden he saw the hidden order in the apparent chaos that he'd been running because of moral hypocrisies that he'd been
mm,
programmed by,
mm,
and he was trapped. And
mm,
the method, simple question, because the quality of life is based on the quality of the questions you ask.
mm.
The question just made him conscious of what he was unconscious of, that he was overlooking. Claude Shannon said that entropy, disorder, the tendency to disorder, is missing information. If you reclaim that information, Plato said all learning is recollecting the knowledge of what you've forgotten, dismembered. So
Yes,
if all of a
yes.
sudden you gain that knowledge back and be aware of both sides simultaneously, as Wilhelm Wundt, father of experimental psychology, said, you now get to see the hidden order and the perfection.
Mm,
And he saw the perfection, and he had tears of gratitude and tears of gratitude confirmations of authenticity, equanimity, sustainable fair exchange, and the beauty of nature, the elegant symmetry of nature.
Yeah.
And the moment he saw that, he just sat there and he said, 4 years I've been struggling with this, and you asked me the question, and in 12 minutes it's gone.
It's
And I
gone.
said, the quality of your life is based on the quality of the question, Jess. The Demartini Method is a series of highly precise quality questions that allow you to become aware of what you're unconscious of, so you can see the perfection and the order that's sitting in your life that you're overlooking.
That's so powerful. And the immediate follow-up question I have there is when people are carrying around these charges of guilt, or they're putting people on pedestals, or they're infatuated, do you believe their sense of mission and purpose gets clouded and they start chasing things that aren't them? Or is it that's a separate discussion, their purpose?
You just nailed it. Everybody has a hierarchy of values, a set of priorities that they live their life by.
Mm,
Whatever's highest on your value, you are spontaneously inspired to act on.
mm,
Well, as you go down the list of values, you progressively need more external motivation to get you to do it.
mm.
That's why the little boy that likes video games, he spontaneously does a video game. You don't need to have, now, Billy, stop doing your chores and homework and go do that
Yeah.
video game. You don't need that. He just does that. But you have to get him to do his homework by saying, now, if you don't do your homework, you can't play the video game. And once you do your homework, you can play the video game.
Mm,
So you use external motivation. You use the highest value as an external motivator. People do it in order to get them and manipulate them into doing what they want.
mm.
So people that live in the highest values and prioritize their life, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain where they're more objective and they're able to see the hidden order. And so the
Mm.
moment they do, they're not distracted by infatuations with people or
Yes.
resentments to people, which is the amygdala. So the second they put people on a pedestal and minimize themselves, they'll inject those values of those
Mm,
people. India's
mm.
ignorance and imitation is suicide. They'll inject those values and they'll try to be like somebody else. And then they'll inject, I should do this. I ought to do this. I'm supposed to do this. I need to do
Yes.
this,
Yes.
instead of what it is that they feel is their calling. So the cloudiness, when people say, I don't know what my mission is, it's because they're subordinating to outer authorities and they're trapped in got tos, have tos, must, shoulds, ought to, supposed tos, and need tos instead of what they would really love to do in life. And the moment they take those people off the pedestal and balance the equation, which is what the method does,
Mm,
the clarity of their purpose emerges again. And
mm,
they all have it.
mm,
When people say, I don't know what my purpose is, yeah, they do. It's
mm.
in there, but you got it covered up because of all the shoulds and because you're comparing yourself to other people. And the moment we compare ourselves to other people instead of comparing our daily actions to our own highest values is the
Mm.
day we end up, in a sense, robbing ourselves of our power.
Of our power, yeah. And this is something the method has given me. Every time I have a quote unquote setback, I just pull it out. I go, okay, there's something I'm not seeing here. 10, 15 minutes, go right through it, and it's like, okay, all right, I'm back on now. What's the next obvious step? And I'd love you to expand on, particularly in business, if a business owner does have a setback, let's say a product launch doesn't go the way they thought it would go, or staff members leave and they're getting a lot of kickback or toxic things coming their way because of it. How can entrepreneurs turn these setbacks into comebacks?
Well, if you have an addiction to a fantasy, your life becomes a nightmare. And
Mm,
many people they don't set real objectives. They
mm,
have distorted fantasies about what they want. And
yes,
then when nature brings in the other side of the equation, like a magnet, you got to, if you're looking for a positive pole of a magnet, the other negative side comes with it. An
yes,
objective has got both the positives and the negatives. A fantasy is a positive without a negative. So all of a sudden the negatives slap you because you had a fantasy about what you thought was going to happen instead of actually
mm,
having foresight and looking for all the pros and cons, because no matter what you do, there's benefits and drawbacks to it and
yeah,
positives and negatives to it.
mm,
So if you're anticipating more positives and negatives, you're missing something. And
yes,
so your intuition is always going to bring in the anxieties, the fears, the doubts, and the challenges to come in to make sure you get a true objective and to make sure you use foresight and mitigate risks and strategic plan to transform fantasies into true objectives.
mm,
So when somebody says that this is not coming out as I planned, it means their planning was flawed in a sense that
mm,
it didn't really think of all the things that could go off and all the variables. And so the setback is a feedback to let them know to have more diligence in the planning and do more due diligence in creating it. Imagine Elon Musk. Here's a good example. Elon
Mm,
Musk wants to go to Mars.
mm.
And so he's building spacecrafts and launch systems one by one, doing it. About 3 out of 4 times it blows up or it doesn't
Yeah.
make it or whatever. But if you look, when that shows up and the thing blows up, the people in Tesla, not Tesla, but in SpaceX,
Yeah.
they're still cheering.
Yeah.
Why are they cheering? They move one step closer to the objective. They don't see
Yeah.
failure because they didn't have a fantasy. And he's thinking everything that could go wrong that he can. And if it does blow up, what do we learn from that? And what's the next step? So
Yes.
people that are addicted to success fear failure. People that are focused on a mission and objectives, they see everything as feedback. And when you
Yes.
get cocky and think you're successful, you're actually depurposed to lower priority things. When you get into what so-called failure, you repurpose to get into high priority things. Both of them are feedback
Mm,
mechanisms to your objective, your mission. So
mm.
people on a mission go way more farther than people addicted to success. I
Addicted.
don't even use the term success.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you hear people say things like, "Oh, it wasn't meant to be," I tried it and then it just didn't go my way, or these things came in and I think that's a sign that I need to go this way, and it's just
Well,
all,
that many times they were injecting the values of others and getting off on a whim because something that's really important, you don't stop. You're
yeah,
relentless.
yeah,
When you're on a something that I've been working on my teaching and traveling the world 51 years, whatever. If you can find anybody that's ever seen me need motivation for that, well, good luck. You can have seminars free because they're not going to find it.
yeah,
But the reality is that when you find something that's really a mission, it's a mission. It's not
it's a
something you
mission.
just temporarily go after with a whoop. Well, if it doesn't work out, it's not meant to be. That's a
Yeah,
sign that you went after a temporary fantasy instead of a real mission.
instead of,
And that's designed to give up because it wasn't really important to you. Because if it's really important to you,
mm,
don't stop.
it's designed to give up from the start. To that, I've heard you say in the past that when you're on your highest values, finding a way to monetize what's most important to you is going to be you're going to be more driven to look after your wealth when you're in those values as opposed to when you're not. Something I hear a lot in my coaching is people like, I have a money story and I struggle to receive money. So I'm wondering, for someone who's got that kind of thing going on, what would you suggest to them in terms of building wealth and building a better money story?
Well, the question is are you doing an action that truly serves other people in an efficient and effective way where they're likely to pay you over a competitor?
Mm,
And are you likely to structure it so efficiently there's a margin?
mm,
If there is, you now have a source of income. Now, does your life demonstrate that you have a value in wealth building? Because if you do, you'll defer gratification. You'll take part of that money and either reinvest it in the company or reinvest it in other companies or other assets of some form, real
mm,
estate or something that grows in value. People that have a value on wealth building buy things that go up in value.
mm.
And people that don't, they buy things that go down in value.
Down, yeah, yeah.
So a lot of people say all kind of things. I mean, I've asked people, I've spoken in front of thousands of people and say, how many of you want to be financially independent? All the hands and feet go in the air. I said, how many of you are? And all the hands go down. I said, you all talk a big story,
Mm,
but what does your life demonstrate? Words mean nothing. Actions mean everything. So are you really, truly deferring gratification and caring enough about humanity to serve humanity, to have a source of income, and then living wisely, deferring gratification, living beneath your means, so you can actually take a margin and put some of it into asset accumulation? I started when I was 27. Up until then, I just kind of thought I would be prosperous. I would somehow be kidding. I lived in la la land, wealth building. At 27, I got serious. I started an electronically automated savings and investment system. I've done that for 42 years. I'm well into financial independence 50 times over. And it's because I just never stopped. I just kept doing it. And I kept looking, how can I more effectively and efficiently serve ever greater numbers of people? And as long as I'm serving people and producing something that serves, I have a source of income. If I
mm.
can do it effectively and efficiently to maximize a margin, I can take a portion of that margin and stick it away.
And stick it away.
And I can put some of it back in to grow my company. If you don't do that, it's la la land. And if it's not automated, you'll emotionalize. And
Yeah.
emotions undermine wealth building, and strategies build it. So get it out of emotions, get it into strategy, because the animal part of you doesn't build wealth. The
Yeah.
executive part of you builds wealth.
And what I really heard there too is you are going to be more likely to serve humanity if you're in your values, if you're actually on those and using
Can't
that
wait
to,
to do it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can't wait to do it. Warren Buffett can't wait to go and do what he does. I can't wait to get up in the morning and do what I do.
mm,
I mean, this is what I love doing. I do it every single day. I teach every day. I research, write every day. I mean, that's if you're not in love with what you're doing and the people you're doing it with. Peter Lynch, One Up on Wall Street, 1990s. He wrote a book,
mm,
and he said, after I do my quantitative and qualitative analysis on the stocks I'm looking at, the companies, shares, I then fly in my plane. I go over to the actual headquarters of the company and take a look at the people. And he says, and what I'm looking for in the people is that they're grateful for their job. They love what they're doing. They're inspired by the vision. They're
mm,
enthusiastically working. They're certain about their skill, and they're present with their customer and
yeah,
their people.
yeah.
If they've got that, I invest, because that's an engaged group of people that are congruent with what they value, that love what they're doing, that's guaranteed to make that company grow. If I do that, I know I'm going to make money in the market.
Mm. Yeah, it's such an important thing, particularly on building teams. And I even saw one of your reels before I jumped on, how you were saying that companies, they infatuate with ideas about their employees and they always attract both sides. And it's like, if we can just make their job relevant to their highest values, you don't need to motivate them with company
Micromanage.
values or micromanage or anything like that.
No, people can't wait to go to work when they're doing what they love. If no one goes to work for the sake of a company, they go to work to fulfill what they value most. If they can see how their job description and the mission of the company is helping them fulfill that, they can't wait to go to work. And you don't have to micromanage them. They're self-initiated individuals. Something
And
happened
we're
to my
back.
mic. Can you?
Yep. Yep. Still can hear you. All good.
Okay. Something happened. I'm not. I must have hit it with my hands.
Yeah.
But when people are really proud of what they do and they're engaged, you don't need to micromanage people. They take care of it. I surround myself with people that know more about things than I do, so I don't have to
Yeah.
do anything because I don't know enough about it. I don't
Yeah.
know enough about their field to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So that way I stay out, let them go get it, and just give them a result and say, go get the result. You figure it out, get the result.
Yeah.
And they take care of it. That way I can teach, research, write, and travel, and I don't do anything else. I don't
Get on
do
with the
anything
mission.
but teach, research, write, and travel.
Get on with the mission. Absolutely. John, I'm aware of our time today, so I think we've given the audience a lot of value in this time together. And just to sum up the time, if people want to go and check out the breakthrough experience or even determine their values, where would you like them to go and check out?
They can go to drdemartini.com, 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 and go and there's a section called Determine Your Values. Just click that. It's free, it's private. It'll take about 30 minutes of their time. It'll be thought provoking. I just ask them to be honest about the answers, because otherwise it's a waste of their time if they're
Yeah.
lying to themselves about what they want.
Yeah.
Just write what the question asks, answer it, and do it again, just to
Yeah.
make sure you didn't lie to yourself. And there's an insight, aha, that comes if you take the time to do that. And then on my website, there's just gobs and gobs of things on me. If you go to the media section, there's podcasts, radio, television, newspaper, magazines. There's all kind of stuff, educational material. It's an educational website because I'm an education guy,
Yeah.
and it'll keep them busy. You're going to have to be a Buddhist and believe in reincarnation, because you're not going to be able to read all the stuff that's on there in one life.
And we'll link up everything. I'll actually put a link to the values determination and everything, so it's easy to find. So thanks for joining us, John, and good luck with the movie release. And yeah, really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on your show. Thank you. Thanks for helping me reach with a message, new people. Thank you.